Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? This is Kevin Anglade, and you are now tuning in to the Wise Guys Podcast, brought to you by Flowered Concrete. Check it out. Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? This is your boy, Kevin Anglade. We are back with yet another episode of the Wise Guys Podcast. Mark, how was your day, brother? Matter of fact, I haven't spoken to you in a few days. How's you been doing? How have you been holding up the past few days? What's going on?
Everything's been great, man. Besides the cold weather, I can't complain.
Yeah.
How about you?
Not too bad. You know, just work grinding, teaching at the high school, teaching here at the college, same old.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you something. Remember a few years ago when we used to go to school together, when we were at Queensboro, and, it'd be like freezing, below 30s, whatnot, and you would have
right.
you would have like your jacket, you'd be all bundled up, but you wouldn't have like a beanie or a scully. Do you still walk around like that, man, with no hats in the freezing winter?
Nah, I had to definitely change my ways. I'm wearing hats now.
Oh, really?
How
come, if you don't mind me asking you?
I think back then I wasn't trying to mess up my hair, but now I'm not really too concerned about that. You know what I mean? Just, I'll fix it when I take the hat off.
I couldn't believe it. I used to tell myself, like, Mark has to get cold. And, like, if he doesn't get cold, he's a cyborg. Like, you mean to tell me that this man doesn't get sick when he doesn't wear a hat, man? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, there's no way he's not cold. So you started wearing hats now. Do you get cold now?
Well, nah, I think I was always cold. It was just I didn't want to put the hat on.
Wow, man. You are a brave soul. Okay, Mark, we're back with episode 3. Ladies and gents, today's topic, well, before I get into today's topic, I would just like to say a couple of things. The first thing I would like to say is I hope everyone really enjoyed episode 2, all right? Student loan crisis. We gave you a lot of gems in that episode, and we talked a lot about student loan debt, how to crush it, what are some ways to prevent it moving forward. Also, what are some ways in which you can, have an opportunity to go to school for further education or advanced education and get, the government or get your place of employment to pay for you, stuff like that. So please go check that out on your own free time. All right. And, so I would like to give a shout out, Mark. If you're listening, man, you said you was going to be listening to the podcast, so, I'm going to test you. I'm going to see if it's true, but shout out to my boy, Kareem Lewis. I know he's probably tight that I put his whole government name out there, but shout out to my boy, Kareem Lewis. I used to call him K. Louie back in high school. We went to Martin Van Buren High School in, Queens Village, New York. Shout out to K. Louie. K. Louie, today, Mark, he hit me up on IG. Well, he commented on my IG post on one of the old videos we shot. Well, I shot personally a while back. Basically introing the podcast and talking about what the podcast was going to be about and whatnot. And then he was like, "Yo, man," he was like, "Can't wait for this, man." And then he was like, as I rub my hands slowly like Birdman, shout out to you, Kev. Can't wait to see what y'all gonna do. I'm hyped for January 8th. Man,
that's awesome, man.
Mark, we are definitely receiving the love, man, so far.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, like,
sure.
people have really been shouting us out, whether it was before the podcast launched or even now that the podcast has officially launched. People have definitely been hitting up our pages, whether it's us individually or us as a grouped entity together, just hitting us up and shouting us out. So shout out to those people, man. I really hope you're listening, and if you truly enjoy this content, me and Mark hope that you all share it with your loved ones, your friends, and anyone that you know.
Definitely.
Yeah. So back to our regular scheduled programming. Today's episode is called The Mask. The Mask. And Mark, me being a poet, it has a double connotation, a double meaning. So The first mask, right, is masculinity. What is masculinity? How does masculinity help or harm young men within the United States of America? What are some ways in which we can help each other or help one another, better ourselves as men, better our children, our boys, and raise young, wholesome, holistic men that will shape their outlook and as well as their character in our everyday society. So those are some of the essential questions that we're posing today on the podcast. And yes, I am a teacher and I am a professor, so yes, I always have essential questions. This is just the very first time that we're doing essential questions. Who knows? I think I might keep this, depending on how people feel about it. But the second connotation, the second meaning of the mask is just short for masculinity, right? So the mask, right? Mask as M-A-S, you could say C, but I'm going to say K. Mask. I feel as if a lot of young men, Mark, in this world put on masks. They put on masks because they don't know how to express themselves emotionally. They don't know how to move and maneuver throughout the world without having people belittle them, pounce upon them, and just pretty much, just speak ill upon them and just totally disrespect them in regards to how they carry themselves and, just anything in that regards. So I really want to talk about masculinity and the mask. So masculinity can be in regards, again, to the idea of masculinity itself, and then as well as the mask means you put on a mask to shield yourself from who you truly are, who you think you need to become, or who you would like to become, or you're just confused in general.
Right.
Mark, something happened to me. Nothing really happened to me, but I experienced something yesterday that I wanted to share with you. And I remember I texted you and I was like, yo, Mark, I need to share this and get this out of the next podcast. And he was like, oh man, he was like, oh yeah, my brother, anytime, whenever you're ready, let's go. So Mark, yesterday, at school, I'm in the inside school suspension room covering for the teacher that was out, right?
Right.
And so I'm covering for the teacher, and get this, man. There's this young kid in there, and how can I say this? He's going through a lot, and he has been going through a lot. Like he's had a lot of ups and downs at the school. He has a bad rap because in the past he's had temper tantrums and or maybe not temper tantrums, but he's had really a hard time managing his anger. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so he's been getting a lot of flack for that, over the past few years. So anytime something happens and he's attached to it, like the administration within the school, they immediately they immediately point him out, and they immediately pull him out from all of the other characters or suspects. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like you're marked once you become a repeated offender.
Absolutely. So I'm having this conversation with him, and Mark, he just said a lot of things, man, that had me wondering and thinking. He was like, Mister, I'm just telling you this right now. A lot of these teachers here, no offense to them being white, I don't have no issues with white people, but I feel as if they lump all the kids together here and they segregate us. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the white kids are usually all together, and the black kids are all together too. And, let's say you're a black kid and, you're not from the inner city. You're not from Hartford. You could be from Enfield, or you could be from Granby, or you could be from Fairfield, or, any of those places. They'll automatically lump you and categorize you with being from Hartford because everyone knows who watches the media that Hartford is where all the bad things happen. Hartford are where kids get shot. Hartford are where kids rob and mug people. Hartford is where there are shootouts and mass murders, happening and occurring every single day. So when he said that to me, man, it really stuck out to me. It made me think wow, that's so interesting that he's saying this, because I'm listening to him talk, man, and he didn't have the language to fully articulate and express himself the way I possibly can, or the way you possibly can. But even though, he doesn't have that lexicon of language to fully articulate what he's trying to say, he still showed me that he was able to convey those thoughts, that is what he's currently, those are the things that he's currently thinking about within his mind,
Right, exactly.
And it just really made me think, wow. And he even told me, one of the teachers, she heard I was in ISS for the day, so she came down and she kind of just looked at me and, was kind of talking down upon me, whatever, whatnot. Now, I have no idea if that's true. I have no idea if that's real. But it definitely made me think, why are our boys targeted all the time? You know, why are our boys targeted but not supported? He even told me one time there was a situation where when his sister was at the school, she graduated now, but when his sister was at the school, she got into a conflict where a boy was got into a scuffle with her, and I guess he was going to put his hands on her. So he jumped in, and then he started getting ready to box the boy, and the security guard took him and pinned him down on the ground. Like, I couldn't believe it. I really, really, really couldn't believe it when he told me that. He said the security guard came in and pinned him down on the ground and had him right there. And go ahead, man.
But you said he was about to fight the other kid.
Yeah, he was about to fight the other kid. That's a tough one
because as a security guard, you see two guys about to fight, they're going to try to separate it. They're not going to ask what happened. They're going to, first and then ask questions.
Absolutely. But the thing that I thought was really quite interesting was that he said that the security guard had him on the ground and literally had his foot on the boy's face and was crushing his windpipe. And he was like, I can't breathe.
That's a tough one. That's overdoing it for sure.
Super tough one. Yeah, man, for sure. So I'm saying that because, then I'm talking to this kid more, and he's saying to me, Mister, you don't understand. You really, really, truly don't understand. There are things going on right now in my head that I can't even express or get out.
Wow.
I've grown so much since I was a kid. Where I'm from, you grew up fast. Where I'm from, by the time you're 8, 9 years old, you're already the man of the house. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
he was like, I've seen people get stabbed in front of me. I've seen people get shot. I've seen things that no kid should ever see. And I've seen things, quite frankly, these teachers here have never experienced and will never experience because they don't go to Hartford. They drive through Hartford and around Hartford.
Very true. That's reality, though. He's just describing life.
He's just describing life, right? So it just leads me to wonder. How have we ended up in a society where our young men or our young boys, they don't know how to convey their emotions. They don't know how to express themselves. And every time they do, they end up being angry and in a fight. I'm sure you, Mark, can relate because we both grew up in Queens, right? And we went to some of the baddest public schools around where boys were fighting, and sometimes a fight would pop out of nowhere. I mean, you know that, in the middle of the classroom or whatever.
And, of course.
Oh my gosh. And kids didn't know how to express themselves. Boys didn't know how to control themselves in their anger. Man, I don't know. How do you think? So I want to pose you a question, then you can pose me a question. I want to say, why do you think that happens, or how does this come about? What are your thoughts?
When you say how does this come about?
So how does it come about in regards to these young boys developing this stoicness about them, this coldness where they're not able to express themselves, and the only way they want to express themselves is within a fight? Because this boy told me that he hates fighting, but if he has to fight, he's fighting until he sees blood. He's trying to kill someone. That's what he told me.
Well, I mean, he's desensitized in a way from his environment. He said he's seen people get stabbed and shot. So that's almost the equivalent of being in Afghanistan. You're seeing all this violence,
right? And
then that's the only way that you know of to express yourself. If you have a problem, you deal with it with violence.
Right.
It's just what he's taught just by watching his environment. So you really can't blame him. We are. I think we're a product of our environment.
Me too. Yeah. Yes.
It's one of those situations that it's extremely hard to get out of without taking a piece of that with you.
Yeah, I know, for sure. I don't know, man. I just think it's interesting. Even, for example, even now, right? I'm a grown man, right? But when I grew up, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I didn't grow up with my father in the house telling me that he loved me. He would just shake my hand, say, how you doing, young man, and call it a day. I remember the first time I heard my dad tell me that he loved me. He called me one day when I was home. I was home for the summer, probably watching television. Then he calls, he asked me how I was doing. He did these daily checks where he wanted to see how I was doing. And then after he let me go, before he let me go, he was like, "Hey, I love you." And I was just like, "Okay, Dad, bye." He said, "Did you not hear me? I just said I love you." I was like, "Yeah, I love you too." And I hung up. I was like, he just said he loved me. Is he sick? I couldn't believe it, man. I couldn't believe it.
It's strange when you hear it from a dad. That is true. That is true.
But Mark, why is that? Should we not hear "I love you" from our fathers? Is there something wrong or problematic with our dads telling us that?
Well, I can understand why it's like that. I mean, from our perspective, the father is the leader of the family. I mean, we know it's equal. The mother and father have different duties, though.
Yeah.
And to raise a man, it's best that a man raises a man. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because there's certain things that a father has to teach a son that a mother can't teach a son.
True.
So, and one of those things is leadership.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like when you're raising a leader, you're not always going to put much into it. You're going to mainly teach him things, teach him how to handle certain situations.
Right.
Because remember, if you're leading a pack or if you're leading a family, you don't always have a shoulder to lean on and cry on. You're the one leading.
Right.
Because if I'm at war and my sergeant tells me, we're ready to go, and as soon as we get ready to suit up and go out there, he's crying, saying he's scared. I'm not going out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like it's just a part of leadership in a way. I mean, because as a leader, you have to take your emotions out of it.
Interesting.
And if I'm raising a leader, I'm not going to. It's just going to be more. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Can I be 100? Go ahead.
Like, you knew your dad loved you without him having to say it.
I didn't know that for the first 12 years of my life. But I get what you're saying, though.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, that's different then. Yeah, that's different then.
No, because I thought because he was so mean. He was so mean. I didn't know that my dad loved me. I just like, man, this guy is just being so hard on me because he was so hard on me, man. There were times where my father would walk into the house, man. I would hear his car backing up. The moment the door would open, I would shake and tremble. I was that afraid of my pops.
Okay. Yeah, I had a different experience then. Okay, so I can understand from your point of view.
But I think, I talk to my girlfriend about this all the time. I think my perspective on it is different compared to yours because my dad is from the Caribbean, man. My dad was West Indian. So being from Haiti, that all they did, man, was just like really be hard on their kids and, like beat them with the belt and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Basically abusing us. You know what I'm saying? But like, we didn't know that back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just took it as it was for what it was, but like that really wasn't the case. It wasn't until I got older that I was like, man, like this was abuse. You know what I'm saying? But
man.
I'm looking back at it now and I see that my dad didn't mean any harm. He was just only doing what he was taught. He was just doing the best he could.
Exactly.
Exactly. But
go ahead.
No, for sure. I was just going to say, but for me, I think it's going to be different. Like, I definitely want, if I have a son, I definitely want to let him know that I love him. If I have a daughter, I'm definitely going to let her know that I love her all the time, I think there will be times where I'll scale it back, with my son and be a little hard on him. Like, if he didn't make the basketball team, I'd be like, no, man, you got to try harder. We got to go out there. We got to train or whatever, whatnot. I think I'll pick and choose my battles on when to be tough on him. But I think there comes a time where it's just like, all right, man, just cut the tough guy act, empathize with this guy because he's really going through it,
Exactly.
But I guess it all depends, and and it all varies on perspective, Yeah, I mean, even like with my dad, like every time like he did something wrong and I knew he was wrong for it, and I was actually right, he would never apologize. He would just be like, we would just leave it at that. For me, I just couldn't get with that, man. I was just like, I don't like this,
I'm with you.
What do you think?
I mean, he was trying to be the best leader he could be.
Right.
I think a leader should always admit his mistakes, but when your family is looking to you for all of the answers, you don't want to show that you don't have all of the answers.
Right.
You want to just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I don't know. Actually, you said he came from Haiti, right? He wasn't born in America.
He wasn't born in America. He was born in Haiti. Both of my parents, yeah.
Right. So he's in a foreign land, and he's trying to form a family unit that can be successful in this new country.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be any fun and games. You know what I mean? He's trying to build something. Why am I going to sit here and and joke around. I love you. Let's play around and run in circles, holding hands. Listen, man, the time is now. You need to make something of yourself. I dragged myself over here to build something for you. Mm-hmm. You're not going to make my trip. You're not going to, all of my work isn't going to be in vain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You better make something of yourself.
Absolutely.
And he left his whole family.
He did.
Mm-hmm. Come on, man. If I leave all my family for opportunity, you're not going to fuck this up.
For sure. That is very true indeed.
It's just how it is. I respect it. I know there's detrimental effects, though, that you felt, but he was just a man trying to build something without the instructions. And you know how frustrating that can be. Absolutely.
You're right. Man, that's good. That's good. I agree with that. What are your perspectives? What is your perspective? And what was your experience like in terms of being raised by an American dad? How did your dad differ from my dad in terms of those experiences?
Yeah, my dad, he was always an easygoing guy, but he focused on knowledge, you know, pouring knowledge into me, the most irrelevant stuff, like things that, it's just like, what's the point of knowing that? It's just, I got so much stuff thrown at me, at all times, just to come home from work, open an encyclopedia and just start reading to me, and I didn't understand why at first, but now those random facts, they matter.
Right.
It's like I feel like I got the guidance without the harsh discipline.
Gotcha.
The discipline came from my mother.
Isn't that interesting how the discipline always comes from at least one parent, whether it is the mother or the father, but someone always has to play good cop and someone always has to play bad cop?
It's true. Definitely. I think there has to be balance, because if not, that's just a hellhole.
Yeah.
That's just that's harsh. I mean,
yeah.
Someone's got to feel bad while I'm getting a beating.
Yeah.
Make a child want to run away or something.
For sure. And for all of our listeners out there, if there's any one of you who's had brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, boyfriends, husbands, that has struggled with their identity, struggled with expressing themselves, articulating themselves, please be sure to send your comments, your questions, all right, send them to us, or even tell us your story. Both Mark and I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, you could DM us or message us on Instagram, or you could send them to wiseguyspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's wiseguyspodcast@gmail.com. Mark, before we end the show, I wanted to segue to this next point. What about the young men that we went to school with? What about all those boys, that didn't know how to, respect themselves, first and foremost, respect the ladies, that would always be cursing out, the young girls or hitting on them and, saying a lot of lewd, inappropriate comments and things of that nature. Where do you think they went wrong, or where do you think that society failed them in terms of their masculinity?
Well, I guess the question is, did they have a father at home?
Right.
The answer is yes. Maybe that's where they learned it from. Children, they emulate what they see.
Yeah.
A child isn't born with anger. See how anger is, expressed, and they emulate from there. So,
right.
It could be frustration from not having a father.
I get
or
it.
It could be, it could be so many different things.
For sure.
It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's no excuses. We just have to do all we can to, pull ourselves together and make something happen.
Agreed.
Because even if you don't have the guidance at home, you just have to be hungry for it.
I agree.
For the knowledge mentor, like you said in the last episode.
Yeah.
Find someone in your community that you can lean on if you don't have a father present.
Right.
A man can only raise a man, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. Before we segue into the final segment, I would just like to say to you that, you know what the young man told me before I left him? He said, "Mister, look, I'm going to tell you this right now. My father was incarcerated last Christmas. My father is getting out this Christmas. And all I'm trying to do right now is play basketball. I'm just trying to keep my grades up. I've been doing really well the past 2 months. I'm just trying to play basketball And I want when my dad comes out, that my dad sees that I'm doing well, that I'm playing basketball. That's the only thing I want to give him for Christmas. Because last year, just as they took him and he went in, he said, please, if I don't know how long I'll be in here. So with that being said, just finish school and stay on the right path. And now his mood is improving because it's getting closer to the holidays. And even though his dad won't be here in time for Thanksgiving, his dad will be here for Christmas. So he wants to make sure that he's doing the best that he possibly can so that when his dad gets out, his dad can come to his games and he can be proud of him.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like when you're marked in a school as the bad kid, it never shifts off. And I hate that, man.
Me too. Because
as hard as you try, they're always going to look at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
No.
It really is crazy.
It really, really, really is. All right, cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is no yearning for wisdom today. All right, our segment, Yearning for Wisdom, we didn't get any questions this week. There is no yearning for wisdom today. So we're going to transition to our final segment of the day, which you all have come to know, which is Words of Wisdom. Words of Wisdom. Mark, I know you always go first, so I guess I'll go first with my words of wisdom, if that's okay.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
My word of wisdom for today is one. I have two. The first is to the young men. I told the boy this yesterday, so I figured I'd share this with you. I told him, as a young black man in this country, you are always going to be considered a target. You are always going to be not only considered a target, but you're always going to be tested. So with that being said, I understand that you have anger issues. I understand that you have emotions and you don't know how to control it or tame it. But the older you get, you must figure that out because you're 16 now. But, God forbid, you're 19, you're 20, and you get pulled over by the cops. That situation will not go right for you. So the older you get, man, you have to figure that, is it really worth it? Is it really worth going to jail, going to prison, losing my life over one moment where I snapped? Because if I, even make a couple of hands gestures and I, start to defend myself and I'm being loud, they're going to perceive it 3-4 times worse or in different ways. You know what I'm saying? They're going to exacerbate it. They're going to exacerbate it and make it seem as if like I was being super unruly, or maybe I was, but they took it to the point where they thought that they had to be in fear of their life or something of the sort. So I would say that's a word of wisdom. The second word of wisdom that I have is just, find a mentor. For all the young men out there, especially the young men of color who struggle with their masculinity, they struggle with wearing the mask, and they feel as if they have to put on this tough guy pose, and they have to, act cool and tough in school, and, basically not show emotions, whether it even be to their own family. Like, that's not cool, man. The older you get, it's only going to suffocate you and literally just crush you as you know it. So find a mentor, find people that you can invest in, and find people that, men, strong men who you can see yourself growing up to not be like, but be molded in the image of, and get as close as possible as you can to them. And once you finally do, form and shape your own identity and be someone who that not only you can be proud of, but your kids, if you happen to have any, or your parents, your family, everyone around you can be proud of. So that's my word of wisdom. What's yours?
That's great stuff, bro. I mean, for me, I would say, to them, I would say find your gift, because, frequently we're pressured to play a sport or do something of that nature, like play basketball, play football. I mean, you may not be good at that, or you may be good and not great. So, find out what your talent is and start using it early. Yeah. You don't want to be 20, 24, 25 trying to figure it out. What's my gift? What's my talent? I've been basketball all these years. I've been focusing all on this thing my dad wanted me to do. You want to definitely, focus on what you're already, given. Focus on what you naturally have. Agreed. Because that will be the easiest way for you to reach success. I mean, if you're naturally talented at something, I agree. It's okay to put the popular thing to the side and then attack that throttle. I agree, man. That's another thing, man. Like, I was happy that he said that, his dad would be happy to see him playing basketball and, getting good grades. But even with that hurts my heart, man, because I'm tired for our young men to think that basketball and music is the only way out, man. There's other different avenues and outlets that they could find to be passionate in. You know what I'm saying? So there's only a few that are cool. Right. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Again, we could go on and on.
about this topic, but I'm sure it'll come up again in a future episode. Hopefully then we can have a guest to go back and forth and spar with in regards to this topic.
Definitely.
But I know Mark has to run, and so do I, Mark. I got to teach my class. We're pretty much going to end this right here. All right. We went a little bit over time because we didn't want to. For us, we went over time because we were trying to cut it back short compared to episode 2. But it's all right. It's all good. I'm sure the people got good gems. Okay. So with that being said, our next episode, our very, very next episode, we're going to continue our series, Young and Broke. All right. It'll be Young and Broke Part 2. This time we'll be focusing on credit card, mortgage, loan debt, and different types of debts in regards to that nature. All right. And once again, I'll be throwing the lobs to Mark, and Mark will be finishing at the rim. All right. And we have a very, 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 very special guest. We're not going to say her name now, right, Mark? But we have a very, very special guest coming on the show the next time that people are going to love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure. So we'll leave you all right here, and we'll build up the anticipation for next week's show, so that way you all can get excited about what this young lady will have to bring and offer to the show. So, as always, I am Kevin Anglade.
And I'm Mark Pruden.
And you are now tuned in to the Wise Guys Podcast. We'll see you all next week.